or tactical team.
Hey there guys, this is me, Malorian, and this is going to be an Orc Tactical Team. And what we're going to be talking about today is the December 2016 Errata. Now, I was kind of hoping that I'd have time to sit down and really attack each one head on, just like every single one. This is the change, and this is what I think about it, and this is what's going to do. But there's something else that I really want to touch on because I don't have time to do that with all the Christmas stuff going on, but I definitely want to touch on this, which is all of the Cygnar Crybabies. And this is coming from a guy who plays Cygnar, right? It's one of my main factions. It's been one of my main factions for quite a while. I own the entire faction. You know, they're spread all around here where I pretty much have everything in the faction more than once. I've played I don't know how many hundreds of games with them, and I feel that coming from this, I have a pretty good understanding of Cygnar, and so when I read on the forums and on Facebook and on YouTube videos about like, oh my god, Cygnar's ruined, Cygnar's garbage, how could they be doing this to Cygnar, I might as well throw these models away, it's just like, holy crow, let's step back and really kind of take a look at what we have, and then maybe just realize that we still got it pretty good. So what this really comes down to with Cygnar is three different casters. We're going to be having Haley 1, we're going to be having Haley 2, and we're going to be having Kane 2. Each of them got significant debuffs and are worse than before. There's no two ways about it. It was like, oh, now they're a little bit different, so they operate like now they are strictly worse than before. And so again, what you're seeing is people saying like, well, now this caster is useless, it's unplayable, it's garbage. But what I'm hopefully going to be talking about here today is how in each of these cases it's really not that bad. So let's start one of the first ones here, which is causing a big huge ruckus, and that's going to be Haley 1. Now, Haley 1 is interesting because she wasn't really overly popular anyway. She was always very powerful in Mark II, where her spells really -2 speed from everything and didn't let you run or charge, and so your opponent just had to be like, okay, I'll take another couple inches up forward, you shoot me again, another couple of inches forward, and even then, it was a huge, powerful caster to have, but people just didn't really play her. You know, they played Haley 2 instead, they played other ones, but she was still very powerful. So much so that going to Mark III, they want to make sure to try and change that negative play experience. And they said, okay, you're going to be -2 defense, but this now with the speed, because of the way it works, you can still run and charge. So you still got that, you know, you can still get a little bit up the field. It's just going to be slower, right? That's the main thing you want. Well, here with this Errata, they kind of take the next step past that as well. Now, the first part of it, which is a small one, is that they adjust her jack points. She's now down to 27 points, which doesn't really matter. Before, she was 28 points. So you are playing with one less point than before, but that's nothing to really cry about. It's really okay. You know, sometimes I play a point or two down anyway, so alright, that's not, you know, it's not good, but it's definitely nothing to get, you know, all ruffled up about either. Now, the main thing though, like that's minor, right? Some people wonder if like, when they don't look at what she went down to, right? They're like, oh, well, she's down, and they think that she's down like 3 points or something or more. It's like, no, it's just 1. The biggest thing though that's really getting people is Temporal Barrier. That's her big spell that goes out and lowers defense and lowers down speed. And the way that it changed now is that it still works the same in that everyone in that big bubble, you know, it goes out. She's only focus 7, so it's going out 14 inches, 16 inches with the Squire. All that stuff is still going to be -2 defense. So that spell is pretty dang awesome still, where you cast it and then all your guns are a lot easier to hit, or melee too, right? If you want to go in there and start slicing things up, go ahead, right? -2 defense to all these things, pretty damn awesome. However, what they did change is now anything that starts its activation within her command, that's going to be the -2 speed. So that's a huge change, right? Whereas before you could go up, reach out very far and say all your stuff super, super slow. all right, let's do this, lots of shooting, lots of shooting. Well, now that's not really going to be the case. If you do want to try and get a big advantage from that minus of speed, you have to be pretty far up there, and it's going to be like in a very dangerous situation. I mean, that part there now, the -2 speed, is going to be very situational because they have to start their activation there. So let's say you're like just at 8 inches. If anything has like, you know, a threat of 8 inches, you're just in trouble. Sure, some things won't have that threat. So let's say it's a jack that's speed 5, even has reach. Hey, she can do that and be 8 inches away from a jack and it still can't get to you, right? Let's say it's a Stormclad or something, right? Okay, but I mean, the odds of that coming up and being important, probably not. So you can kind of now see that spell is like a nice to have, but it's not really what that spell is all about. So with that being said, is Haley 1 garbage? Well, a lot of people, of course, that's the whole point of this video, are saying, yes, she's garbage, there's no reason why you should take her, but I think that this might actually make it so that Haley 1 players get better at the game, to be honest. The style before, like I kind of said, with Haley 1 was defensive. You stayed back, you had your gun line, you say, I'm going to make you slow, pew pew pew, pew pew pew, pew pew pew. Very defensive, very reactionary, you know, you're having to just kind of wait and see what comes at you and to kind of like shoot it down, and that's really it. And where Haley lists really kind of fell apart is they usually struggled in the scenario, and as well, sometimes Haley just got herself killed because she kind of just used up all of her focus, and then, you know, if you gotta shoot something, you might as well shoot at Haley, and people get assassinations this way. What I think this is going to mean now with a change to Haley is that she is going to be a lot more offensive. She is no longer the defensive caster. She is now an offensive caster, just like Sloan. So Sloan goes up there and says, hey, I'm going to pop my feet, all my battle group is going to shoot twice, and I'm going to decimate you. Well, Haley's going to do the same thing. She doesn't have true sight that goes to everybody, but she's going to say, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to lower all the defense of all the things out there so it's easier to hit, and then I'm going to give everything 2 attacks as well. And that can be very, very devastating. It's not kept down to just jacks. It could be on anything else you need to do. If you want to go combat based, whatever it is, you're just getting an extra attack and you're doing that extra damage. And so it's going to be that time where, okay, we want to really go and kind of crush them. You pop your feet, you get double the attacks, and your opponent is decimated. And it's one of those things where, you know, they say the best defense is a good offense. I think that this will change players so that instead of being reactionary, they're going to be more proactive. They're going to attack. They're going to destroy the enemy. They're going to jump on the scenario and just play a much better game. Now, of course, the question will always be, like, do you want to go Sloan and make sure you have that true sight, make sure you have that awesome sniper rifle, or do you want to go with the Haley? I think now that's going to be a very tough question. However, I definitely see Haley still doing very well, and if you are doing anything that has to do with more so infantry instead of just straight up just battle group, the more that ratio goes to not jacks, the more you should be looking at Haley 1. So is she unplayable? Is she trash? Absolutely not. She was a horrible play experience before. If you were someone who had no guns and you had slow heavies, you'd be walking up and getting decimated. Now they're forcing Haley to play the game. And I think that even though a lot of Cygnar players will be like, oh, this is garbage, and put it up on the shelf and ignore it, the Cygnar players that actually play Haley 1 are going to have a lot more fun with her. And like I said, I think they're going to get better results as well. Next up, I want to talk about Haley 2. Now, Haley 2 is another one that really got negatively affected by this errata, and it was probably about time. For a very long time, she has been a very powerful caster. And it's not like those ones like, oh, you know, like she's pretty good, you know, she's all right. No, no, no. Out of all of War Machine, pretty much when people go out there and they're trying to rank like the top casters, she would be up there because she is very powerful, always does very well in all the big events. You know, you always see Haley 2 for Cygnar doing extremely well. It was people would, again, kind of like Haley 1, it was a negative play experience because she'd come in and she'd control you, pop that feat so you can't really retaliate, and then have her other tricks to kind of move things around. Just very, very strong control. Taking control away from the opponent, obviously, is the way how it works, and something had to happen. And so now she had two very big changes that people are just going crazy over. So the very first one there is she had a complete spell swap. So what that is that before she had deflection. Now deflection added +2 defense against range and magic attacks to your whole friendly faction army. So really, you just cast that every single time. All your stuff is +2 defense, which was really important on the feat turn because since you're probably making it so they can't attack you back in combat, they have to go after you with range or magic. And so if you're saying like, okay, if you do that, I have +2 defense, it was obviously very good. People cast it all the time. A very popular spell to be casting with Haley too. Well, it's gone now. There's no such thing as deflection. Now she has Force Field. Now with Force Field, it's a completely different spell. Now she's not able to be knocked down, and you're able to control which way AoEs go, and it's a lot more situational. It's not a no-brainer like deflection was before. Now it's like, well, do I really think that knockdown is a threat? Or AoE is really a threat? And I think a lot of time you're just not going to be casting that spell. So, okay, it's something that was always good to something now which is situational. So, again, this is the one, even though where I said, like, pretty much everything is a straight up downgrade, maybe you could argue that, oh, depending on the case, this one's not a downgrade. It's pretty much a downgrade. But I think it's deserved, and we'll get more into that in a second. The second one is going to be the change to Time Bomb. Now, Haley 2 has always been amazing because of her feat. You'll find that when people get into Haley 2, the feat is what really sells it because, hey, you have to give up either your combat action or your movement, so, screw you. I mean, before you actually got to pick the order as well, that was even more crazy, but past that, when people will really start getting the handle on Haley 2, then the next thing they start getting really used to is TK, right? Telekinesis. And they'd be moving people around, moving your own guys around, and really adjusting the battlefield to make happen what you want. You can be adding on 4 inches of threat, making them closer and your thing closer, and it was really, really, really good. And then I think the next part that went past this was Time Bomb. Now, Time Bomb is this big AoE, which is POW 14, and then minuses speed and defense. So, first of all, if you want to kill things, badoosh, you got this big, huge, powerful AoE, so that even if you're like in the blast damage, it's still POW 7, and would do, on average then, getting to 14, which kills most troops anyway. And then past this, it'd be used against heavies or even casters, because against heavies and stuff like that, that -2 speed could be the difference between whether they can actually get in or not, right? If you can go and blast a heavy and say, okay, my feet's already gone, but let's Time Bomb this thing, and now it can't get to me anymore. And that's a really big deal. You can also try TKing it or something. Maybe you do both, but the beauty that you saw before with TK, or not TK, Time Bomb, is that you could hit multiple things. You could go with your Storm Wall, you could put a pod wherever you want, you go after the pod, and boom, you go and you Time Bomb like multiple heavies, and it's just ridiculous. All of them are -2 speed and defense, and it's just hell to play against. And the other part, like I said, is that minus in defense, so that if you're really trying to target something to take it out, boom, first of all you hit it with a POW 14, but now it's also -2 defense, so that everything else that's going to be shooting it is going to be doing much, much more, like more efficient, because it's actually hitting, right? So very, very powerful spell. Well, the way that they changed Time Bomb is simply that now those effects, those debuffs for the -2 speed and the -2 defense are only on the model directly hit. So what that means is that even if you roll a hit and several models are caught underneath the blast, it's only the one model that's underneath the center of the template that's actually directly hit. So there's no more of this put down a pod and hit multiple models, and they're all going to be then -2 speed, and it's just gets ridiculous, right? If you get some of these like bulk together units, like these really tough ones, let's say like the Mana Wars or Warders or those type of things too, right? You would just throw it into the middle of them. They're all -2 speed. You're laughing at them, and it was pretty ridiculous. So in the end, I think the change to that spell is completely justified. People are saying that now that it's not worth the focus of a 4-focus spell because of how that's gone, and I don't think that's valid whatsoever. If you only looked at it as the POW 14, I mean, you're basically at that point comparing it to Obliteration, and then on top of that, you have all those debuffs as well. So when you look at it that way, it's still well worth the 4 cost. And when you're looking at Haley 2 overall, she is still very, very powerful. I mean, the things that we're saying now are just a strict debuff. It's not like Haley 1 where it's going to make you play very differently and something like this. It's really just going to be taking power away from her. And me as a Cygnar player am saying that this is fully justified because Haley 2 for so long has been our very best caster, and it's about time something happened. And I think even with this, with the powerful feat that she has and TK, I think Time Bomb will still be a key piece in there as well. She is going to do still extremely well. Again, you're going to have people who are like, well, screw you, Haley 2, you're going on the shelf. But again, once they start pulling her out again, they're going to start seeing like, okay, well, she's pretty good. And it could also be, too, like in that changing playstyle, that since you're not casting Deflection every single turn, you're going to say like, huh, I got a couple more focus. I can start doing another TK or something like that, right? So I think that it won't be in the end just all bad, and that you're going to find that she is still very, very good. Now, let's get to another one, which is my favorite, which is why I left it the last, which is Kane 2. Throughout me playing, as soon as I learned that there's this guy, Kane 2, that had 2 pistols, and it was like Wild West style, and got to shoot all the things, I loved Kane 2, and I have played so many games with him. And I gotta say that when it went from Mark II to Mark III, I thought it was ridiculous. Me as a Cygnar player thought that he was completely overpowered, and I could not believe that they would do this. Now, the big changes from Mark II to Mark III was, first of all, his defensive spell got a lot better. It was no more that he got a little bit of extra defense against some range attacks coming in. No. Now, Bullet Dodger was +2 defense against everything, and he gets to dodge away whenever you miss him. So if you were just in range, or if he was able to like go behind cover or something, one miss was huge. So that's a pretty good benefit right there. However, that's nothing compared to this. Before, in Mark II, he had Magic Bullet. It was a cost 2 spell, you'd put it on something, and then whenever they shoot, you'd be able to pick a different model within 4 inches, and it would take a POW 12. Well, now in Mark III, he has this awesome thing called Trick Shot, and now for each time he shoots, he just gets to do it. Every single time he shoots, it's just, "Pow! I'm going to Trick Shot over there." It's a POW 10 rather than POW 12, but still, every single shot is doing this, and it's ridiculous because whenever you're trying to kill infantry, it's like, well, I'll kill you and then hit you for free, or get the roll against you for free, and then I'll shoot you, and oh, I guess I'll get you for free. And even when you're going for your feet, and you're popping your feet so it's getting stronger each time, and you're trying to kill a heavy, well, at the same time you're killing a heavy, trick shot, trick shot, trick shot, and you're going and you're killing everything around it. Or another one is now he had grievous wounds on it, so if you're ever trying to shoot something that you don't want to heal up because it's not going to be able to be finished on your turn, okay, this time grievous wounds for free, ping, and it was just so silly, and I couldn't believe Kane 2 got so much better. And the silly thing as well is that even though he got so much better, when I tried to bring up that, wow, Kane 2 is amazing in Mark III, a lot of people are like, I don't really think so. I don't think he's all that great. It's all about Sloan. It's like, okay, whatever. So, what changed in Kane 2? Well, the big thing that happened to Kane 2 is the very fact that now you have to pay whenever you want to do one of those special shots. So before you roll to hit, you have to pay 1 extra focus to be doing those extra type of fancy things, whether you want to do trick shot, or you want to do your, shooting into combat, or you want to be doing your grievous wounds. That's going to cost you now. And people are going nuts saying, oh, why would you even play Kane 2 now? If you can't get this stuff, you have to pay for it all. It's not even worthwhile anymore. And it's just, Are you serious? Compared to Mark II, all the stuff was a free edition. I couldn't believe it was free. And before, remember, if you wanted to do the whole magic bullet, that was a 2-cost spell. Now it's basically a 1-cost spell. Now, to be fair, it's now a POW 10 rather than a POW 12, but you can do it more times. So before, you could do 3 magic bullets, and there's 3 POW 12s that could go in. Now with your 6 shots, and I'm assuming, or sorry, 6 focus, and I'm going to assume you have 3 initials because of Reinhold, well, you can pay first 3 focus to make those 3 be a magic trick shot. Then you can buy a shot, and you can make that a trick shot, and you can always buy another shot too, although you can't make that one a trick shot. And if we're looking at that there, that's going to be more than just 3. Oh, that's going to be 4 of them. 4 of these things are going out and doing these trick shots, which I think then at that point between the POW 12s and the POW 10s probably works its way out. It's just one of those things where I can't believe people are getting all upset about this. And as well, if that wasn't enough, getting grievous wounds for 1 focus, come on, that is so well worth it when you need it. That's crazy. Even though they also changed this errata that now you can't do the grievous to colossals and gargantuans, whatever. That's still so good. So I'm still going to be loving the hell out of Kane 2. I don't see this as a really almost not even nerf at all. It's almost like to me that from Mark II to right now, he's actually better. If I do that as my playing field, not to start on Mark III to now, because I think the start of Mark III, that was a mistake. I mean, he was clearly given way too much power, and so if you don't look at that craziness and you go from Mark II to now, it's like, you know what? That's pretty much better in the overall. So there you go, guys. There's the 3 casters: Haley 1, Haley 2, and Kane 2. And even though the internets are exploding and saying that these guys are garbage and you should send them back to Privateer Press and how dare they make these models invalid and useless, just stop crying about it. These guys are still so powerful. They needed these changes, and I think that if you actually just give them a try, you're going to see that they're still very competitive casters. So there you go, guys. I'm sure you guys have some thoughts on this as well too. Please post it down below and we can chat about it. So talk to you later. Bye.